All right, guys, next up on the list in the house is gonna be the breakfast bar here. Hey, you're probably wondering, hey, I don't get it. Where's your beard? And didn't you have a bonus room that was done? Yes, we did. And when we were doing it last summer, we were doing drywall anyway, so we thought, let's just keep the momentum, just patch up this hole and get a little momentum into this next video. So if you wanna see that wall being built and all that stuff, check it out right here. But in the meantime, let me get you up to speed on where we're at. It's nice, but we want it to look even nicer. We need to give it a nice makeover, make new, fresh, clean looking cabinets, a new countertop, fill in this hole, and do shelving and whatever we can think of after that. So first things first, let's get rid of this countertop. Let's get to work. Let's talk about sponsors of today's video, Ariat. Now you guys know I've been a fan of Ariat for a very long time, way before they're sponsored today's video, and I have always loved wearing their workwear. I'm wearing their Cotton Strong rebar t-shirts. Not only is it pre-washed to prevent shrinkage, so tall guys like myself don't have an issue, but it's also got a drop tail hem on the back to cover anything up, but also I just like taller t-shirts. It's got a sweet pen slot or pencil slot that's hidden right there. It's got a rib knit collar, and it's made out of 6-ounce durable jersey. For pants, these are the Rebar M4s Durastretch canvas. They are triple needle stitched, reinforced. They have a carabiner loop. They have plenty of utility pockets, a lot of mobility, no issues at all. And the boot, these are the Endeavour 6-inch waterproof work boots. They are extremely comfortable. They have flex foam mid layer. It's anatomically accurate to your foot. You actually don't feel like you're wearing a boot. I feel like I'm wearing sneakers, but they're super tough. They're waterproof, they're slip resistant, they're dust proof. They are fantastic. And this is the perfect time to stock up on your holiday workwear because Ariat's having their Black Friday deals, including their Cyber Monday deals. Everything's gonna be running till the end of the month, the 30th. You'll have opportunities to get some of the best deals around. Check out my link in the description to get 10% off your first order today. Now, let's get back to this build. Let's go. All right, so we got good structural support here. They'll be very important because we're gonna have big floating shelves that are gonna be holding up a lot of, dishes and stuff like that. So now that we're got the strength, let's cover this puppy up. All right, so here's where we're at. We filled in the wall, everything's textured. We even added some outlets and moved them down. Threw some countertop because we're doing countertops in the kitchen. Go check that out as well. We really like how everything turned out. The vision for this breakfast bar, I want to do 3 giant long floating shelves. There's gonna have dishes and glassware and all that stuff for both functionality and looks. Maybe some lighting, definitely accent wall in the back to really make it pop. And definitely gonna put on something on the sides. We're thinking benches, but of course we can't just leave it empty space. We're gonna turn into some kind of storage. So let's start building those shelves. All right, the floating shelves are gonna be made out of 2x4s. They're gonna be 75 1/4 inches long, 2 of them in the back, front and back. And then the reinforcing studs are gonna be 7.5, because by the time we start wrapping it and adding it together, the total depth will be 11 inches. Gonna slice and dice and put some pocket holes out. The studs are gonna be secured with glue and pocket holes every 15 inches or so. We're gonna secure it this way using this pocket hole bit and pocket hole screws. They go together. And then because we won't have enough room to get the drill bit through here, when we put the top piece or the front piece, whatever you wanna call it, probably front for us, over, we're gonna secure it from the top with regular screws. All right, all 3 shelves are done. We're gonna let them dry for a few minutes and then we'll start installing them on the wall. All right, now that we got everything marked up, we're gonna make sure that everything's gonna go straight into the stud. 2 screws per stud, and I think it should be pretty strong. So I had to run down to the store, change something out. These are the screws that I was using, the 2.5 inches. And they're not gonna cut it by the time you put an angle and go through the drywall to the other screws. It's just not that strong. So going from this and upgrading into that, this depth is gonna hold. These are the lag screws, gonna throw some up there, indestructible, and we'll start with the accent wall. That's sturdy. For the accent wall, we're gonna bring in a little bit of shiplap. We're gonna do it vertical, not horizontal. I'm gonna start cutting the long pieces, then we'll figure out the small pieces between the shelves. All right, so for installation of this stuff, usually you have to put like a 1x2 in the back to create your own framing, but I don't want to stick out. So we're just gonna do what we did with the board and batten. We're gonna use our flex glue. This stuff is nice and tacky and strong. We're gonna put a bunch of it on the back and then brad nail it on. I'm gonna leave a little gap away from here because I'm gonna put like a round over edge for a transition piece, not to go in here. And the most important part, make sure you have a laser level, make sure your starting line is straight and it's not slowly bending, because by the time you get to the other side, it's gonna be tilted way more than it should be. So one of the important things to note when doing shiplap, a lot of people forget, once you start your first line, you put the brad nails on the outside, but after that, all the brad nails go on the inside. Therefore, you don't see them and far less sanding. Okay, shiplap is up, everything's looking really nice. What's next on the agenda is to build 2 base cabinets on the sides here that are gonna be benches. If you want a little more detail of building cabinets, I have guides that you can go check out on my website, where you could see all the tutorials that are written out and step-by-step instructions for building cabinets that are easy to follow, just YouTube videos. Going back to this cabinet, it's gonna be 35 inches long, 20 inches tall, plus a cushion is gonna be on top. I got a couple of sheets of maple plywood here, gonna start ripping them up and do the final cuts. Now we're gonna do pocket holes. You have to create a toe kick. The toe kick is the part underneath the cabinet. Make sure you can get close enough to it and not feel you have to stand back. Typically the way these toe kicks are, they're 3.5 inches tall and 4 inches deep. I put some tape on both sides. Reason why, we're gonna use a jigsaw to create a cut, and if you don't use tape, it has a tendency to tear out, at least on one side of the plywood. And just like that, we got our first bench with a toe kick. Gonna do one more and we'll throw it in. Both carcasses for the cabinet benches are done. Now we're gonna do the drawers. The drawer is gonna be made of 1/2 inch maple ply as opposed to 3/4 inch. Lighter, but yet still strong. I'm gonna assemble them exact same way, pocket holes, that stuff. All right, how big is this drawer? That's insane. I don't know if I've ever made a drawer that big. By the way, these are the longest drawer slides I've ever installed. These are 22-inch long, full extension drawer slides. And they're not even the biggest ones, but they're definitely the biggest ones I've done. Woo. So I goofed. The cabinets already installed don't have face frames on there, meaning because I measured it to be exactly the same width or depth, by putting face frame, it's gonna stick out more. So we're gonna match what's there right now, which is edge banding. I picked up edge banding. This is iron-on stuff. You can get it at Home Depot, anywhere you want. It just goes on top here. Use a little iron it on until the glue melts, and then use a little scraper to kind of push down. Sometimes you can use like a sturdy roller as well. So we have our cabinets. All we gotta do now to finish it off is build the drawer faces themselves. Now what I have here is a 2-piece cabinet shaker door router bits. So what you see here is a tenon that is red, and then over here this little black channel is a mortise, a hole or a slot for it. So all these parts that are going horizontally are called rails, and everything vertical is called a stile. So all the rails will have a tenon on the end of it. And then all the stiles, including the rails, are gonna have a mortise going completely around it for everything to fit together, including the center panel. All right, all the pieces I cut, let's start assembling. Boom, that's exactly how it's gonna look perfect. Let's start building the floating shelf sleeves that will slide over it. We're gonna make it out of 3/4 inch plywood. I'm gonna put it together, make all the edges mitered. That way it looks like one solid piece, and we'll stain it and then slide it on. All right, so these are my dimensions. Every corner here is gonna be mitered. It's gonna be 45 degrees on each side. So I made a measurement of the inside, giving about 1/8 of an inch gap so it could slide on easily. But I'm gonna make all my cutting measurements, because it's cutting at a 45 degree, to accommodate the angle already. So what I mean by it is, by the time you make your miter, you've added 3/4 of an inch on the final outside dimension. I added to every dimension either 3/4 inches or 1.5 inches, which is double the 3/4 inches. I'm not 100% sure about this. Here's the issue that I'm having. It tripped this table saw, the breaker, burning all the wood. So it's creating too much friction. I'm gonna throw a brand spanking new blade on there. 60 teeth is perfect for plywood, especially crosscut so it doesn't chip out. Look at these teeth marks. That's a sign of heat. They're getting too hot, too much friction. And look how fresh these carbide teeth are. So what we have here, all 3 shelves, the side pieces are done like this. Now we're gonna do the front piece. Now we have the fronts for all 3 shelves ready. Let's do the tops and bottoms for each one. Here's what we have. We have our top and bottom mitered in the front, mitered on the side, and flat in the back, because that's gonna be the back wall. And then we have our front face, which is mitered on all 4 sides. We're gonna use wood glue and brad nails to put it together, use tape where we need it to make sure we have good seams, and then once it's all dried, we'll putty it up, stain it, sand it, and slide it on. How cool is this? It actually worked out. The dimensions are actually spot on. I was expecting to really blow this. I'm gonna start busting out 2 more of these, let them dry overnight, and then we'll get to sanding. I'm gonna let them dry overnight. Tomorrow, I'm gonna wood fill it, sand it, and get it ready for stain. Now that everything's ready, we're gonna do some stain. This is a semi-transparent weathered oak. Very popular with Irina. It's this one and Fruitwood. This one has the same little bit gray tones that the Island has. So it'll match the breakfast bar shelves to the Island cabinets perfectly. We're gonna give it a quick dose on it, let it dry, and then start painting the rest. All right, these giant floating shelves are drying. We're gonna give it some time, but before we start putting them on, let's go paint the shiplap that we recreated, because it's gonna be one less thing for us to actually mask off, which is these things. I don't wanna gunk up all these crisp shiplap lines. I'm gonna spray it with my HVLP sprayer from Wagner. If you guys wanna check some of the ones I use out, it'll be on my tool section. Gonna give a couple of coats and we'll move on to the cabinets. First coat's on. A lot of people always DM me asking about the HVLP sprayer. It's like, hey, how come it just splatters the paint out? What am I doing wrong? Well, it kind of is supposed to. 2 things. You have to dilute your paint enough, not too much, but enough that it could actually, the clumps aren't too big, they're more fine. And number 2, use a good quality paint, not the cheap stuff. The good quality paints, eventually when they dry, the splatter evens out and blends out. You'll see this will be a nice, smooth, finished surface. So keep that in mind. I'm gonna shoot 1 more coat and then we'll start sanding these existing cabinet doors. When it comes to the doors that were originally stained or painted, whatever they were, we sanded them down, not bare, but just enough to scuff them up so the primer has a chance to actually stick to it nice and hard and not be interfered with anything. I have those, the drawers, and the new drawers that we built, the drawer faces, they're gonna get primered as well, including the new carcasses for the bench. Anytime it's a raw wood, you gotta shoot primer on it to have a good paint finish. Now the primer's drying on the cabinet doors, let's go install these floating shelves. Like a glove. Oh, perfect. These look incredible. I'm blown away. Before we paint, what we're gonna do is give it a quick little 220, dust everything off, 220 sand, and then we're gonna give it a coat of paint. Baby Fawn is the color that we're using. It's cabinet grade, it's gonna be great. All right, folks, I brought these cabinet doors inside just so they could cure better overnight, and they came out flawless. I cannot imagine it coming out any better. So everything's gonna be an assembly day. We have to wrap up with this project today. It's been about 5 days in the works. So what we're gonna do is start assembling things. Before I put the doors and drawers on, I made these fitted side panels here. This is just plywood, as I could see, notched out and painted. Originally used to be a cabinet here, as you remember, and we got these little perforations in there for the shelves. So we're gonna put this over here, brad nail it, and start securing both the benches from the sides, and then we'll slap the doors on. So there's nothing more I hate than installing drawer faces. Once you mark out exactly where your poles are gonna go, I'm gonna take a screw and put a screw through one of the holes that the hardware is gonna go. We can safely pull the drawer out, secure the door from the inside. Now that the face is secured, we're gonna take these screws out, drill them out with an 1/8 inch bit. We have a perfectly straight drawer. So this could potentially be a fire hazard. So you have to buy these little spark rings, I think that's what they're called. And what this goes is around your outlet, and it makes this stand out basically up to this shiplap, and then the cover goes on it. So you're basically covering with this plastic anything that's a fire hazard. All right, one of the last things we need to do before this breakfast bar is completely done is make the cushions for the benches. We worked really hard on it, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna use plywood for the base. This is the foam that's gonna give it the cushioning. We got our fabric, and this is batting. Let's cut our plywood to the dimensions of our bench. When it comes to making cushions, first you're gonna lay down the material you're working with. Then we're gonna take our batting. Then we're gonna take our foam, doesn't matter what thickness you get. We're gonna lay down the plywood. Then we're gonna use a stapling gun. Then start pulling it over, flip over the fabric so you can staple through 2 pieces, and just work your way around. The corners will be the interesting ones because you're gonna have to do a little creativity when it comes to making a fold. And there we go. We got a perfect cushion. Martha Stewart got nothing on me. Come see me. All right, last cushion is done. I'm gonna go put this thing in its place, and I'll show you guys what this big reveal looks like. Let's go. So let's talk about the breakfast bar transformation budget. The floating shelves ran us $220. The benches were made for $350. Upholstery was $160. Shiplap was $300. Paint and stain, all in all, was $75. The countertop quartz is $600, and the drawer slides were $40, making all in all this transformation possible for $1,745. Hey, thanks so much for sticking around watching yet another one of my videos. It means the world to me. If you like home improvement stuff or any kind of furniture build stuff, make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the notification bell so it's important that you'll get these notifications when these videos come out. If you want to help support these channels and these builds, make sure you check out my link description where you'll find my merch section and my Patreon. All help support this channel. My Patreon, we create extended versions, hour-long videos of these director uncut scenes where you see a bunch of bonus footage that will be super helpful to your builds that didn't make it to the 18-minute clip. Check out my social media. All the links will be down in the description below, as well as any guides that I make. Check out my website. All the tools are there. Tune out this week. We'll see you guys on the next one. See ya. Bye.